USCHO.com.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. One of the teams that's come out of the gate really strong with 3 non-conference wins is Holy Cross.
Joining us this week on USCHO Spotlight, the head coach of Holy Cross in his 3rd year, Bill Riga. Bill, what a nice start to the season. 3 non-league games, 3 victories for your Crusaders. Take us through what the first couple of weeks have been like for you out of the gate here.
Well, this year was unique in that we didn't get to have an exhibition game, and that's a different story altogether. So a couple teams did, we didn't, but so it was kind of an unknown, having not gone through a dress rehearsal, so to speak, with our new guys and how we were going to come out of the gate against LIU, and they had already played a game the night before. So I'm not sure if that was a positive or a negative in the end, based on fatigue levels and things like that. But it was good. Like we carried over some things from last year, I thought, and how we learned to win games late in the year. Maybe, any of those 3 games earlier last year, I don't know if we would have won them, just in where we were with our program and our development and our belief. And I think we learned a lot about the things that we need to do, the little things that we need to do to win games. Even, if we get outplayed in the game like we were the second game against UConn, we found a way to do that in the playoffs last year, and we're able to pull it through, that second night at UConn, which was a big win for us. So it's been good. I don't know that three games can tell you everything about a team and their season, but certainly it's better than being any alternative.
It has been an interesting process watching you from afar. I remember the first year you were there a couple of seasons ago. You and I talked, and you said, "Jimmy, I hate losing. I don't get this losing thing." And last year, obviously, a fantastic second half, a great playoff run right to the Atlantic Hockey Championship game. But how do you feel like you have been as a coach trying to grow this program?
Well, it's a lot of different things. I mean, there's no one answer. In general, I'm just trying to create an identity for everything we do, whether it's recruiting, whether it's on the ice, off the ice, in the classroom, and obviously hockey stylistically and everything that we do. So everyone that came in at the same time as I did was new, from trainers to coaches and everybody. And we just started from scratch and integrated everyone that was already here into our plan. And we put in a recruiting plan and just tried to grow, our identity on the ice as well with the players we had, and then add to that and find what we're looking for. And I think the first year we got better as the year went on. Last year, we started to put it together actually in results and win games. And then this year, so far, a good start. So I think we've made progress in that regard.
I want to get into some of the players here. And, I see a couple of really familiar names, Jack Ricketts and Tyler Giardosi, right at the top of your points for this season. And I know you're only 3 games in, but they've been, finding the score sheet. And I guess that's, I've heard many coaches say that leaders lead, and sometimes it's on the score sheet. Can you just talk about those 2 guys and what they mean to your senior class?
I mean, they're both captains, Jack with the C and Tyler with the A, and they're both big kids. They play physical. They kind of set a tone outside of scoring, and when we need something done in practice to lead the way and bring them in and have them, say something to the team or whatever, those are 2 guys that come right to the top. And certainly for them to be productive and back up what they're saying and their leadership abilities goes a long way. So, we have 2 other captains, Jack Robilotti, who's been out here last weekend and and Jake Higgins, who also lead the way as well. But those 2 guys are guys, the aforementioned guys were the guys that we count on to score a lot as well. So for them to do all those things, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, to have that responsibility to score, to lead, and to also take care of all the things we need to take care of here at Holy Cross. So I give them a lot of credit.
Another member of that senior class in goal, Jason Grandy. 3 wins thus far, obviously, but only allowing basically 1 goal per game. That's phenomenal. I always look at that being a nice stat, but save percentage maybe being more important. Almost .960 save percentage right now. Obviously, he's going to lead you from the back end, but what do you see from him? What have you seen from him developing over the last 3 seasons that you've been there?
He wasn't here the first year, so he came in last year from Bentley, and when he played, we all started off in a competition, and everyone kind of had their shot. And he kind of caught fire right before Christmas last year and kind of led us to start that second half run. But then he got hurt for a month leading into the playoffs. And we kind of lost a little steam for whatever reason without him in the net, his performance, and just, I think, our confidence. And we like our other goaltenders as well. But, when we got him back in the playoffs, you saw what happened. So he's put in a good summer, and he's calm. He's calm in the net. He's 6'3". When he's at his best, he makes things look easy, and he doesn't have to make the acrobatics, the dramatic saves, which he can do. He did a couple against RIT last year, desperation saves. But when he's at his best, he's calm, and the team plays calm in front of him.
We just mentioned Jason Grandy. He one of a couple of transfers who really figured prominently for your team. Last season, Liam McClinsky came on in the second half of the year. I want to talk a little bit more generally about the transfer portal. Different teams in your league have different ways they can use it. Service academies can't use it at all. You don't have the option of grad students and fifth-year players. Other teams have used piecemeal. Other teams have used a lot of players. How have you approached the transfer portal, and how do you look to approach it going forward?
I mean, I think we need to look at it as how can we use it to our advantage? And there's going to be times, broadly speaking, across college hockey where good players leave teams and they don't want them to leave, and that's happened. And but on the other hand, you just try and find what you can get out of it. And we've been able to find, 2 good players each year that we've done this so far. And I like our 2 we have this year too, to kind of augment and give us some experience. Guys coming in as sophomores or first years as juniors, that's as close as we're going to get to a grad transfer. And to have that experience is different than it's just different than having all freshmen. Like, it's different when you have a guy that's played 2 years of college hockey come on into your roster and worked out with a college team and is 2 years older than when you have a 19-year-old coming in. So it makes a difference, especially when there's teams that are loaded with those players. And, I'm not, saying anything about anyone in particular, but the year of the grad transfer is coming. Like, it's going to be over. One more year, and then all those grad transfers are going to be gone. So teams that have really counted on grad transfers are going to have to find other ways to do it. I suppose you could take undergrads from other teams, or you have to go back to the freshman model. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops when those grad transfer options go away a year from now.
You're going to see an example of the transfer program when you head to Robert Morris. They are not building a team just around freshmen, but a lot of transfers. That's going to make a big difference, isn't it?
Absolutely. And they're well coached. And I was talking to someone today, and they said, can you imagine if Penn State had the transfer portal when they became a program? And and the kind of players that, would have come there for their grad transfer year, so it's just different. You're not getting a new program full of freshmen. You're getting a new program full of 24-year-old men in some cases. So it's a different thing. I think we're just playing another really good team in our league this weekend. I don't see it as being anything other than that. I watched them on tape against Bowling Green, and they're ready to compete right now, and they're ready to challenge right now. We're going to have our hands full. But yeah, we're looking forward to getting out on the road for our first long road trip of the year, and we know we're going to have our hands full with Robert Morris.
More with Holy Cross head coach Bill Riga in a moment. We continue now with Holy Cross head coach Bill Riga. You've picked up 3 non-league wins, including 2 over a ranked team last week in UConn. Only 2 other wins in the conference outside the conference last weekend. Where does the league stand right now in competitiveness with the other conferences, and what's missing to get to that next little step to be right up there?
Well, I look at it as pretty simple, actually. If you want to take a step as a program in a conference, you need to make steps in beating teams that you aspire to be at that level. In terms of, all right, you want to get players that are going to be professionals, get those players and send them to professional hockey. You want to beat teams like Notre Dame and North Dakota, well, you need to play them and beat them. And until you do that, you're not one of those programs, and you're not going to be able to say that you are. So it's really simple. You just need to put the work in and do the best you can to put the best team on the ice every year. And if we all do that as a league and take steps in beating those teams and sending guys, where we want to send them after they play here, then we'll be considered, right on par with them.
One other thing, as far as competitiveness, that's been a bit of discussion is name, image, and likeness. There's some concern. It was the scuttlebutt around the Frozen Four last year about the Big Ten and the kind of money they're going to be able to have for players with name, image, and likeness. Do you see that affecting college hockey broadly, or maybe just with a few teams? What are your thoughts on NIL?
I think there's probably half of college hockey that have gotten a little bit more into it than the other half at various levels. I think most teams have been able to probably get some sort of benefit out of that to their players. But I've heard some things that I can't confirm that are well beyond what I think most teams have been able to do, which it's just the way it is. That's not going away. And that's just the way that college sports is going, whether we like it or not. And, some teams are going to be able to give more than others, but I think we all have to take stock of, as a program, what can we offer student athletes? What can we offer hockey players in our program that make us successful and make us more appealing? And sometimes that's going to be financial for some schools, and sometimes it's other things. So, like I said, it's not going away, and it's something we're going to have to learn to live with.
Bill, you spent so much of your coaching career as an associate head coach down in Hamden, Connecticut with Quinnipiac. They won their first national championship last season, and I remember Rand Pecknold afterwards, credited you as one of the builders and the people that recruited a lot of the talent that won that championship. When you go back to those days and what you learned there, how much were you able to take from that position as an assistant associate head coach to where you are now at Holy Cross?
I took a lot from Nate Lehman at Union when I first got my first college job in 5 years there. And the next 13 years, it just expanded exponentially, just in terms of how we came in at one level and came up with a plan. And I give Rand most of the credit for this, just to reinvent things, and whether it's recruiting or whether it was the way we were playing, or when I talk about creating identity, that comes right from him. So there's a formula to it about finding the right guys and putting in a development model, with a brand that allows a team that doesn't get first round draft picks to beat teams that do. And the way that all went about, and the little ways that there, what he would call marginal gains, getting a little bit better at a lot of different things makes a big difference, is something I can pull here. And while I do some things, that are different than we did there, a lot of the same tenets and identity points that were used there are kind of translated to here as well.
I'll give you one last question before we end this, but it's kind of unconventional. What excites you most about the opportunity you have right now at Holy Cross?
I think Holy Cross is a world-class school, and I think we were able to get really good student athletes in here, a lot of interest, and it's sort of a national name in terms of a college. So there's a lot of potential for growth there to be a program that someday, the goal would be someday to be a national level. And so the excitement is the journey in getting there, and people tell us, we couldn't win at Union and they won a national championship, and you couldn't win at Quinnipiac and they won a national championship. So who knows, what happens in every situation. I'm not saying we're headed there. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it's exciting to have a plan and put it into place and enjoy the ride along the way and see how good we can be here on a year-to-year basis.
Do fans still bring up the game against Minnesota back in, I don't know, it was 2005 or so in the NCAA tournament? I think in the general college hockey fan associates Holy Cross most with that game.
Yeah, and we went to North Dakota last year to start the year, and there's a bunch of Holy Cross jerseys in the stands, and I would do interviews with their media before the game, and the first thing they always brought up was that game. So I think I was at Union at the time and I didn't really know a whole lot about it, but believe me, I got an education quick when I got here, and there's pictures of it on the wall, and certainly we'd love to get back to the NCAA tournament and have a moment like that again.
Well, it's been a nice start for your team, 3-0 out of the gate. Conference play begins this week. 2 games in Pittsburgh at Robert Morris. Bill Riga, best of luck the rest of the way this season. I know you and I are old classmates from college, so maybe I pull a little harder secretly for Holy Cross these days. But thanks for your time, and definitely certainly good luck down the road.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
That's Holy Cross head coach Bill Riga. Jim, I love what Bill was saying about creating an identity. Every team needs to find that, because if you don't have an identity, you don't have cohesion, you don't have a singular purpose.
Yeah, and I think that is what I've watched, over the 2 years. I called a bunch of the Holy Cross games in his first season, and that was what was probably, kind of most obviously missing was some sort of an identity, some sort of an understanding of what we are, where we're going. Second half last year, they really started. You could tell that there was something changing there. I'm not surprised. I've known Bill for 32 years, going back to my days in college. But more importantly, I've watched him as a coach progress, from his days with the Junior Bruins, then on to Union, then on to Quinnipiac, and now at Holy Cross as a head coach. I know what he has learned along the way. And he mentioned some of those things he took from his past mentors, obviously Nate Lehman, Rand Pecknall, both being huge influences on his coaching career. I think that the sky really almost is the limit for him at Holy Cross. He knows how to win. He has not been a part of a lot of losing programs. So I have high expectations, and I'm really impressed to see that it did not take 6 years or 5 years or an entire class and turning everything over. And again, you hit on it, that they don't really get to hit the transfer portal the same way a lot of schools do. You have to go to Holy Cross for 2 years just to have the ability to get a degree. So they will not even take somebody that's only coming in for 1 year. So a senior transfer is out of the realm, and a grad transfer, they don't have graduate school there. That's out of the realm as well. So I feel like he has done a lot with very little in a time where it's very hard to do that. So I take my hat off to everything that Holy Cross has accomplished to this point.
I've seen business books talk about compounding improvements, and he talked about marginal improvements game to game, getting better at little things here and there, adding up to getting better overall. I really liked hearing that approach too.
That sounded very Rand Pecknall-ish to me. I'm actually, ironically, preparing for a Quinnipiac series. I'm calling a couple of games of theirs at UNH this weekend. And having talked to him today and talked about improvements, and he kind of said, I can't point to one thing, it's 20 little things. And I don't even know if that was just talking about his power play or if that was talking about his team in general, because I feel like that's the way that he has approached the game. And obviously that's rubbed off on Bill Riga. He understands that he couldn't just walk in and say, this is what we're doing wrong at Holy Cross. This is what has to get better. He went in and approached it as little improvements. How do we get a little bit better every single week in this area, and then not lose that each week? You have to, as you said, I love the compounding interest analogy, because if you can make an improvement and hold on to it, then you build on that. And then, when you have two improvements, those two together are stronger than any one improvement, than 3 and 4 and 7 and 10 and 20. Once you make 20 improvements, you've changed the whole culture of your team. You've changed their entire performance. I think that's probably what we're seeing right now. And I'm interested, I like that, listening to Bill Riga talk, that he seems to have some perspective on things. They've won 3 games out of the gate. They've won 2 games against a nationally ranked opponent, UConn at the time. So that feels really good. But now you've got to go into league play. And if you lay an egg in the next 4 league games, what good are the 3 wins you've already put? So he has some perspective on that. I'll be interested to see how much of what has already happened over last year, the end of last year, the playoffs, and then early this year, can really move forward now into league play. That is something to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and competitiveness. We talked a bit about that. That was fresh on my mind after getting into the discussion with Paula C. Weston in this week's TMQ column on USCHO.com. He said the right thing. Everybody's got to get a little bit better. It was not a good weekend last weekend for Atlantic hockey. There were some good wins. Obviously, his home series against UConn. Air Force got a game against Michigan State. RIT downed Notre Dame, but there were a whole lot of losses in the league, and that's got to be the individual teams. This 25 to 28 to 30% non-conference winning record is not going to get that league where it needs to go. And it's almost, he probably didn't intend it that way, but it was almost a challenge to the rest of the league. Hey, step it up a little bit, guys.
Yeah, I guarantee he did not intend it that way, but I will say that it's the right message. It's every team's responsibility in every league. You've got to pull your weight. And listen, there were other leagues that were down at times last weekend. Hockey East lost some games that I'm sure they'd like back. The Big Ten had a couple of losses the week before that. There's these wins and losses happen all the time, but it is the league that puts together that best schedule. And I'm sorry, the best winning percentage in that non-conference schedule that usually stands out come March. When we're sitting here on Selection Sunday, whatever it is, 6:37 p.m., and we're trying to figure out what teams are getting in, we usually always know because of the pairwise. But the league that has the most success is the one that won the games back in October. It's not the ones that roll all season in the regular season, and beat up their other league mates. It's the ones that go out and play the games, play the tough games, sometimes on the road, having to find those tough road wins. So you look at a team like Holy Cross, maybe was not the one that you would count on as being the leader in Atlantic hockey, but they've gone out and they've won 3 of their games already. You only get so many games out of conference. If you're already 3 ahead, that's pretty good. Now it's time for the other teams to go out there and catch up.
Well, having seen quite a bit of the Crusaders under Bill Riga, I will tell you there is no game they're in that you should count out Holy Cross.
Dangerous team. And you're right. They can fall into holes and they have confidence. I love that he used that word so many times too, confidence. They're a confident team right now.
Well, we do thank Bill Riga for being our guest on this episode of USCHO Spotlight. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and we'll see you next week.